Welcome, kids. This is episode 29 of the podcast, and I'm glad you're here. Today, we're going to have a little show and tell. Well, in literary terms, anyway. We will cover why show is more important than tell when you write, and how to identify when you're doing it wrong. So stick around. We have a lot to cover. Before I started recording this episode, I was walking around. The glint of the soft moonlight reflected off of the broken shards of oyster shells and cockles. The grains of sand were still warm between my toes, though the foaming tendril of wave remnants that surrounded my ankles sent a shiver up my spine and layered my skin in goose flesh. But now I want to ask you a couple questions. First, what time of day was it in my little walkabout that I just described to you? If you said nighttime, you're correct. Second question, what kind of shoes was I wearing, if any? And if you said that I was barefoot, you are again correct. And finally, was it hot outside or not? You see, the reflecting moonlight off the oyster shells, that will tell you that it is nighttime. And the sand squishing between my toes should tell you that I am barefoot. And having the sand still being warm but shivering with goose flesh means it isn't quite hot anymore. Now, I could have told you I went for a walk before recording this episode. It was nighttime and I was barefoot walking on the beach, and I didn't stay long because it was growing colder. I could have, but then the little movie in your mind wouldn't have kicked in. You wouldn't have seen it being nighttime. You wouldn't have been able to sense the cold water and warm sand. In a nutshell, that is what showing does. Instead of telling you what to see or what is going on, I used my words to express to you the situation, to show you that the moon was out instead of just telling you. When you're writing, it is almost always better to show rather than tell. And I'm sure you've heard this a million times. You've probably even said it a few times too. Showing is one of the trickiest aspects of writing. And not because it's difficult to do, but because it's difficult to understand. Once you do understand it, though, it becomes one of the easiest things to do. Do you want to understand? Well, good. Let's do some teaching. I often compare writing to movies, books to movies, because being my two favorite mediums, they are able to do something that no other art form can do. Namely, they can transport the reader or viewer into a world of make-believe. Books are oftentimes better than the movie for one simple reason. Your brain is more powerful than your eyes. Movies do a wonderful job of showing us the things we need to see. You don't need to know that the bad guy is 7 feet tall and hovers over Rocky in the ring. You can see it. When Drago touches gloves in the center of the ring before the first bell, he physically towers over the hopeful underdog. A book, though, can do so much more. Instead of just handing you the details and presenting them as fact, you get to use your imagination. Even a set full of the most talented actors known to mankind can't compare to your imagination. Take, for example, the Red Dragon. In the book, the Red Dragon, the Tooth Fairy, is a monstrous man. He ducks and has to turn sideways to enter rooms. When he lifts something heavy, the muscles in his back ripple in places that most men don't even have places. His strength alone is rivaled only by steam locomotives, and his anger, well, not even a real dragon can conjure that much fear. In the movie, however, the Tooth Fairy, Red Dragon, is played by Ralph Fiennes, who is a fine actor. I have no issues with the man that practices his craft, but Red Dragon, he is not. That is what a book can do. You can conjure this image in your mind of what the man must look like. He isn't a man, in this case, but a monster. Large and hulking, lumbering, mouth-breathing, fear-inducing, mastodonic beast of a man. The book allows you this freedom to create the perfect villain, his image, his presence. A movie takes all that away from you. You're left with the facts. Everything is shown to you and your mental creativity is stripped away. When a book is written with showing as the primary focus instead of telling, you can imagine. You get enough details to build the basis of the lands, the characters, the settings. Your mind fills in the rest. When written properly, the mental movie kicks on and goes into high gear. As a reader, you forget you're reading a book. Instead, you latch on to the story, almost becoming a part of it. You read faster, longer, you're more involved. You forget that you're even flipping pages. The books that do this extremely well make you forget you even have a book in your hands. Suddenly, you look up, heavy eyelids, wondering how it got to be 4 a.m. and why the book is finished. Showing is a powerful tool, and you need to take the time to master it. Let's do a few practices. If you're currently able, get out some paper or open your word processor, and we're going to do a little exercise. If you are currently unable to sit and do the practice, come back to this episode when you have the time to complete it. Now, first, before you ever write a word down, I want you to imagine that I have just built a house. Inside the house is a room just for you. It's brand new. The construction workers have just left and cleaned up. The room is ready for you to move into. In the first part of the exercise, I want you to furnish the room. And it can be any type of room you would like. A bedroom, an office, a studio, even a bathroom. Your choice. You and I are standing in the middle of the empty room, and I have a magical catalog. Because who doesn't love magic? All you have to do is tell me what piece of furniture or item you want to have in the room and where it goes. And poof, the item appears there. It's radio magic, so just go with it. Now, on your paper and your word processor, write down what you would tell me. If you want a desk by the window, tell me that. If you want a bathtub next to the outlet because you're a psycho, say so. I suggest you pause the podcast and write down your details of the room and then come back and continue on. Don't worry, I'll wait. Now that you have the room built up, we're going to create a little scene with it. You're going to be in this room and a friend of yours is coming over. Your friend has a physical disability. Perhaps their arm is in a cast or their leg has been amputated. Whatever it is, I need to know about it. So write a paragraph or two next, telling me about your friend. I want to know their name, what they look like, and what their physical ailment is. Tell me what they're wearing, how tall they are, how skinny or how fat. And once that's done, I want you to write another paragraph below the rest that tells me everything about the friend that I would need to know to identify them if I cross paths with them in the supermarket. Do they have any identifiable tattoos? Maybe a giant mole above their left eye? In just a couple sentences or so, tell me about your friend. And once you're all done with those paragraphs, we will move on to the meat of the exercise. So go ahead and pause the podcast again while you write these friend paragraphs, and come back when you've finished. Okay, now that we have the basics down, let's begin. You should have a page or two written that tells me everything I need to know about the room. This scene will take place in this room. And it should tell me the friend that will enter the scene. So here's the scene. Whatever type of room you've created, you are in the room doing the thing the room is designed for. So for example, if it's a bedroom, maybe you're sleeping. If it's a bathroom, you might be in there brushing your teeth. Suddenly, your friend comes in the door and tries to get you to follow them. It's an emergency. A dog has fallen down the well, and your friend needs your help right now. The task is to write the scene without telling me anything. The trick is that you're going to use all of the items you placed in the room, and you're going to show me your friend. I want the mental movie to kick in my head as I read your words. I want to be able to see the room and identify your friend without you telling me about them. Show me instead, and I'll give you a couple of examples to get your juices flowing. Instead of telling me there's a brown couch next to an outlet in the office, show me this by having to move a cushion to find the end of a phone charger so you can charge your phone. The white charging cable contrasts against the dark mahogany of the couch cushion as you grab the end of it and plug it into the butt of your phone. Your friend enters the room, squeezing their hips through the door frame, an effort that has been repeated on many visits to the office space in the past. The doorknob catches their belt loop as the friend rushes in. Alright, you get the idea. If there's a window in the room, don't tell me there's a window in the room. Show me your friend glancing outside the cracked pane to the well in the backyard. So go ahead and pause the video. Go ahead and pause the podcast one last time as you write this scene. Take your time. Do it right. And remember to show instead of tell. And when you're done, we'll come back and examine what you wrote. Alright, now that you're done, let's take a look at your scene. You should have most, if not all, of the items and furniture displayed in your room. You should be in the room doing something when your friend comes in and we should get a good description of them so we can identify them on the street later if needed. If you have followed all the rules, each of these details should be shown to the reader instead of told to them. Now here's the kicker. Almost none of those examples of showing need to be in the scene. Maybe one or two of them, maybe, but not all of them. You see, just because we're writing a book and have this power to control the mental movies in our readers' heads, it isn't always needed. We have to work our word magic to keep the reader glued to the pages and enthralled in the story. And the most crucial aspect of this is to always keep the story moving forward. If you remember, in the instructions I told you this was an emergency. The friend rushes in to get your help right now. As a reader, we don't mind being told details every now and then to keep the story from stalling out. If we're in the height of an important scene, it doesn't matter where the couch is positioned. We don't even need to know there is a couch there. Instead, let the reader fill in the blanks they feel are needed. Pick the crucial information to show, and then tell the non-critical aspects, or leave them out completely. So in this instance, we may start by showing some of the room. The steaming water swirling down the drain mixed with toothpaste and spit that you watch, mesmerized as the bristles massage your gums. Just from this, we know we're in a bathroom, and you're brushing your teeth. It isn't important that there's also a toilet and a tub, or that the floor mat is teal. It isn't important because your friend comes rushing in. And now the scene picks up. The reader needs to know who came in and why. What is this emergency? A dialogue will ensue, and you will rush out to rescue the pup in the well. And it's okay to tell us this part. As a reader, I don't need to know about the soggy grass and the muddy spots on the way to the well. A puppy is drowning, damn it. Get to the well and rescue him. Once you get to the well, we can take a breath again. You can go back to showing mode. You need to get to the well now, though, by God. And unless you trip over the edge of the tub in your haste to exit, I, as a reader, don't care the tub is even there. It doesn't move the story forward to know it's there, and I really don't care. I'm worried about this puppy. Showing is important. Showing is critical to the success of your book and landing an agent or a publisher. And knowing when to show and when it is acceptable to tell is just as important. However, because the concept of showing versus telling can be difficult to grasp, I suggest you write out every detail as you just did. Show everything. Then, in one of your editing rounds, you can go through and remove the parts that aren't important. It's easier to see what is and isn't crucial to the story, or where the story slows down, when you show everything instead of telling us about it. And at that point, you can either delete the whole damn thing, or switch briefly to telling mode. Just make sure you switch back. More show and less tell will make a book better. Practice showing more until you are confident you can do it with ease. Then edit the shit out of your work. I'll leave you with that to ponder on until next week. If you want to stop by the site, please do so. I would love to see your scenes in the comments section of this episode. You can find it at podcast.extradraft.com or by clicking the link in the show notes of this podcast. And until next week, have fun. Write words.